Picture this. You're scrolling through your phone, and within seconds, your blood pressure spikes. A political post, an argument in the comments, someone's wrong on the internet again, and suddenly you're furious about something happening hundreds of miles away, involving people you'll never meet in a system you can barely influence. Sound familiar? Here's the thing. Over 2,000 years ago, ancient philosophers figured out why this happens to us, and more importantly, how to break free from it. Today, we're diving into why Stoicism says it's time to stop getting angry about politics. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank each of you who've helped this channel reach 70 subscribers. We're so close to hitting our first major milestone, and honestly, it's incredible to know there are people out there who want to explore these timeless ideas together. If you enjoy this kind of calm, thoughtful content, I hope you'll stick around for the journey we're building here. So why does politics make us so angry? Think about it. When was the last time you changed someone's political mind through an argument? When did getting outraged about a news story actually improve your life or solve the problem? Yet, here we are, day after day, letting political chaos dictate our emotional state. We give away our peace to strangers on social media. We let talking heads on television determine whether we'll have a good day or a bad one. We argue with family members about policies neither of us can directly change. The Stoics would look at this behavior and ask a simple question. What exactly are you trying to control here? Marcus Aurelius, who literally ran the Roman Empire, understood something we've forgotten. He wrote in his personal journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about that for a moment. The most powerful man in the ancient world was reminding himself that his real power lay not in controlling external circumstances, but in mastering his own responses to them. But we live in a different world now, don't we? We're constantly connected, constantly informed, constantly outraged. Every injustice, every political scandal, every policy debate streams directly into our pockets 24 hours a day. The Stoics didn't have to deal with this, right? Actually, they dealt with something remarkably similar. Ancient Rome was just as politically turbulent as our modern world. There were corrupt leaders, unjust laws, social upheaval, and plenty of things to be angry about. The difference wasn't their circumstances, it was their philosophy. Epictetus, who spent years as a slave before becoming one of history's greatest teachers, developed a principle that cuts right to the heart of our political anger. He taught that everything in life falls into one of two categories: things we can control and things we cannot control. Wisdom, he said, lies in knowing the difference and focusing our energy accordingly. So let's apply this to politics. Can you control who gets elected? Not directly. You have one vote among millions. Can you control what policies get passed? Not really. You can advocate, but the decision isn't yours alone. Can you control what other people believe or how they vote? Absolutely not. What can you control? Your own actions, your own character, how you treat the people in your daily life, whether you volunteer in your community, how you respond when someone disagrees with you, whether you choose to engage in productive dialogue or destructive arguments. These might seem small compared to the grand political theatre playing out around us, but here's what the Stoics understood. This is where real change begins. Why do we find this so hard to accept? Maybe it's because focusing on what we can control feels less dramatic than getting swept up in political outrage. There's something intoxicating about righteous anger, isn't there? It makes us feel important, like we're part of something bigger than ourselves. But what if that feeling is actually keeping us small? What if all that energy we spend being angry about politics could be redirected toward actually improving our lives and our communities? Consider this. When you're consumed with political anger, what happens to your relationships? How present are you with your family? How much mental space do you have left for creativity, for growth, for joy? The Stoics believed that anger regardless of how justified it might seem, is always a form of temporary madness. It clouds our judgment, damages our relationships, and prevents us from thinking clearly about the very issues we claim to care about. This doesn't mean becoming apathetic or disengaged. The Stoics weren't passive observers of life. They were active participants who believed deeply in virtue and justice. Marcus Aurelius didn't abandon his responsibilities as emperor because he practiced Stoicism. He fulfilled them more effectively because of it. The key difference is that he acted from a place of reason rather than emotion, from principle rather than reaction. What would this look like in practice? Instead of spending an hour arguing with strangers online about a political issue, what if you spent that hour volunteering at a local organization that addresses the same concern? Instead of letting a news story ruin your evening, what if you use that emotional energy to have a meaningful conversation with someone who disagrees with you? Instead of sharing angry posts that only reach people who already agree with you, what if you focused on being the kind of person whose character speaks louder than their political opinions? Here's a question worth sitting with. If you removed all political content from your life for just 1 week, what would you do with that extra mental and emotional energy? Would you read more? Exercise more? Spend more quality time with people you love? Learn a new skill? The Stoics would argue that any of these activities would contribute more to human flourishing than another heated political debate. But what about injustice? What about the real problems in the world that need addressing? The Stoics weren't naive about suffering or inequality. They simply understood that sustainable change comes from people who can think clearly, act wisely, and maintain their principles under pressure. When we're constantly angry and reactive, we're not at our best. We make poor decisions. We alienate potential allies. We burn out and become ineffective. Seneca, who advised emperors and witnessed the rise and fall of political figures, wrote something profound about this. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. What if the end of our political anger could be the beginning of something more powerful? What if choosing calm over outrage, reason over reaction, actually made us more effective agents of positive change? Think about the people who've created lasting positive change in the world. Were they driven primarily by anger or by something deeper? Martin Luther King Jr. faced injustices that would justify anyone's rage, yet he chose a different path. He wrote from a Birmingham jail cell, "Non-violence is a powerful and just weapon, which cuts without wounding and ennobles the man who wields it. It is a sword that heals." This is Stoicism in action, responding to circumstances with wisdom rather than raw emotion. The beautiful thing about this approach is that it's immediately available to you. You don't need to wait for the next election, or for politicians to change, or for society to become more reasonable. You can start right now with the next political post you see, the next news story that tries to trigger your outrage, the next conversation that threatens to become an argument. You can pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is my response here going to make anything better? Am I acting from wisdom or from emotion? What would the person I want to be do in this situation? This isn't about suppressing your values or becoming indifferent to important issues. It's about expressing those values more effectively. When you're not constantly reactive, you have space to think strategically. When you're not always angry, people are more likely to listen to you. When you focus on what you can control, you actually start to see progress in areas that matter. If you found value in this exploration of how Stoicism can free us from political anger, and you'd like to continue this journey of discovering timeless wisdom for modern challenges, I'd be honored to have you subscribe and join our growing community of thoughtful people who believe there's a better way to navigate this chaotic world. Here's the truth the Stoics discovered and that we can rediscover today. In a world full of noise, choosing inner peace isn't weakness. It's the ultimate form of strength. While others are tossed around by every political wind, you can remain steady. While others exhaust themselves in futile arguments, you can channel your energy toward meaningful action. While others let external circumstances determine their happiness, you can find freedom in the one place it's always been available, within your own mind and character. The chaos will continue, the debates will rage on, but you don't have to be swept away by any of it. That choice, that power, has always been yours.